let government take deliberate steps to address the issues of insecurity, whether they are man-made, like we see them raise their ugly heads, address these insecurity issues head on. We must protect the lives of Nigerians.
There's a disconnection between the people of Nigeria, the voters, and the people that have voted for over the years.
When there's expenditure without a budget, appropriated by the National Assembly, it amounts to extra budgetary expenditure.
You and I occupy the highest office. The power belongs to people. If you want to go into semantics, if you want to go into the whole politics of it, let's focus on that. The highest office is the office of the citizen.
Many thanks indeed one more time for joining us on your prime political program, Democracy Today on AIT. I told you earlier that we have two gentlemen in the studio. Of course, we are going to be engaging with them regarding the calculations towards the 2027 general elections as it stands. Unofficially, the political wranglings and calculations and alignments and realignments for the next general elections have begun, even without the apex electoral umpire declaring, activities for the elections. I have in the studio Dr. Kingsley Ogu. He is the national leader and founder of Enforcers for Good Governance. Many thanks indeed for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
I also have Alhaji Abiola Wasiu, the country director. Nigeria is in diaspora for Asiwaju. And of course, to begin with, he is an APC chieftain. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Something I found very intriguing and interesting at the same time. Those who are known as Alhajis are usually known to be quite elderly and very big in size and all of that, but I didn't quite see any of that. Not to worry, that's not derogatory in any form. I'm just complimenting.
It's okay, no problem.
I'm going to begin with you. What are your thoughts regarding the calculations towards the next general elections? We still have more than 600 days before the elections. Governance in itself has not quite been felt by Nigerians. There is still, acute hunger in the land. Basic infrastructure is still in want. And of course, many things that were promised by this present administration in power 2 years ago, well, of course, even on the day of inauguration, Nigerians say they haven't quite seen that. And calculations for elections have already begun. What are your thoughts regarding that?
All right, thank you very much. First, let me say that it's true that the politicking, the race for 2027 has begun. And, it's not a problem. And you can see that we, as APC, we are up to that. We are ready for that. You are aware that quite early enough, some people claim to be forming coalition. I think people that are not too comfortable with the race beginning early should focus their anger or their concerns to those that started forming coalition as very early. Since last year, they started, you all know, and this year, they started meeting, going from one point to another. So they kick-started the game, and just like everyone, just like it's within their right to form coalitions, they are forming. And we also have our own, we also have our right also to seek coalitions with Nigerian people, okay, with governors, with politicians, with market women, and that's exactly what we are doing. We had our summit 2 days ago, and it was clear that we are ready for the game. So, but to talk about the promises of the government, we agree with me that Mr. President held the ground running from the first day by pronouncement and removal of first subsidy. First subsidy removal has been a promise the APC made from the beginning. We go back to 2014 when APC was being formed, 2013, 2014.
That's right.
Yes. Removal of first subsidy was part of our agenda, was part of our manifesto. And former President Muhammadu Buhari also talked about removal of subsidy. In fact, the last budget that the administration of President Buhari prepared by the time they were leaving office actually had no provision for continuation of first subsidy. And that's why President Tinubu said he just effect the removal. He just have the courage to remove the subsidy. And let me say this, that itself is bold and very courageous. And you see that things has changed tremendously. And that give birth to financial re-engineering.
Nigerians will agree with you that things have indeed changed, but not necessarily for their good. If you and I go to the streets right now in the city of Abuja to begin with, you will find out the anger with which people will even respond to you when you bring up questions or discussions regarding stuff like this. For instance, why should hunger, be some sort of a weapon at the moment? What I mean is that many people can't afford the basic food. How many people can even afford food once in a day right now as we speak? The economy is not really in good shape. Now, the promise of removal of subsidy, the pronouncement rather of the removal of subsidy on May 29, 2023 was where all of this began. Yes. And a lot of Nigerians were hopeful that by that pronouncement, the government in power will set the ball rolling in order to put checks in place for, the needful to be done after removal of subsidy. The proceeds will be channeled into, other aspects of the economy. Is that happening? Would you sincerely say that is happening right now?
Yes, it is. It is happening. I quite agree with you that the first few months of the subsidy removal was actually tough for the economy, because shortly after that, the harmonization of, or let me say unification of exchange rate also was done too. So, and that actually impacted so many things, prices of staple goods, items, and many other things, grains went to the roof. But take to what Mr. President said 2 days ago, talking about the crashing prices of items in the market. You can also agree with me, if you agree, that things have been expensive in the last 1 year or so.
How are you sure I will agree with you that food items are coming down?
Please, sir,
I was in the market, should I say a few days ago?
I also was in the market because I bought some items. I bought rice of recent. I bought a bag of rice, 50 kg. I bought 70,000 naira. And
how many people can actually afford it
I'm coming to that. Remember, few months ago, this same bag of rice I bought 70,000 naira was sold for 120,000 naira. That is 50,000 naira difference. Mr. President said, those that ordered items, they are bringing it out because they were expecting that they want to compel the government to reverse the subsidy removal. But when they saw the determination, and some of these goods that were ordered actually have expiring date, so you can't hold them for life.
All right.
So they're bringing them out.
Could you just hold
Things
that thought?
Things are changing for good.
Just hold that thought. I'll come back to you regarding the discussion. Dr. Kingsley, you see, young Nigerians are hopeful that someday, somehow, they will clinch power. Nobody gives power. You take it, definitely. Looking at you, you're a young man, I know that. But considering what is going on at the moment, do you think it is about time for politicking towards 2 years' time when actual governance have not actually been felt?
Well, if I understand you very well, talk about young people taking into power. You talked about that variable about good dividends of democracy not being felt.
Exactly.
So it is your opinion. Please don't quote me wrong. It is not my opinion. My opinion is that the dividend of democracy is being fed to an extent. Because I know where we are coming from. We are all in this country together. We know, you can attest to the fact that 3 years ago, government, state level, LGA level, we are struggling to pay workers' salaries. We are struggling to pay pensions. But today, you don't hear that anymore. It is because of a certain situation responding to some degree of reforms being carried out by the government in power. About young people, there is no time I have agreed to anybody, even you, even right in the studio, that young people will be handed power to. You must work to get power. You must really fight for power. Power is not given, it is taken. So young people will never ascend to power. They don't work together, clinch to power. But talk about dividends of democracy. It is not a a consequence of age. It's a consequence of putting together good calculations, deliberate good governance calculation. That has nothing to do with age. So I'm not really a fan of saying old people, young people. I'm a fan of saying put together the right policies, the right decisions, the right questions and the right answers to certain situations. That is what manifests to good governance. Thank you.
How can you convince me, for instance, because I am also a young Nigerian who wants good governance. How can you convince me right now, as we speak, assuming I'm on the street, right, as an ordinary Nigerian, or as another Nigerian rather, how can you convince me that good governance is being disseminated, so to speak, in this country right now?
You know, if you understand how the micro and the macro economy works, it's not something that has to do with a wave of a snap. It is a response to coordinated decisions.
2 years is not enough
Now,
for coordinated
listen,
decisions?
I must be very honest to you that before the inception of this administration, a lot of monies were borrowed. And then take it for a just normal economies. When you borrow money at a certain degree of interest rate, you have to service this interest rate. And what the past governments were doing, were servicing this interest rate. But what this government has done is to take it off, proceeding from the removal of fuel subsidy, which enabled them to have a lot of access to money. Money used to service the fuel subsidy, which I have always spoken against, because when you remove fuel subsidy, or when you have fuel subsidy, you are subsidizing a particular capacity that the rich, the elite, utilize. So removal of fuel subsidy is not something that has to do with favoring the poor, but it's something that has to, it's not something that has to do with favoring the rich. It is taking away some particular economic power that the rich have, then also giving enough for the grassroots. So that has been removed. This is the reason why you are local government, you are state, I don't know the state you're coming from. They are richer, they are richer today than they were some 3 years. You may disagree with that, but that is the fact. This is the reason why you are state, we don't talk about having problems with paying pensions, having problems with paying teachers. I know, I don't want to digress, but if you permit me, I like to lend a little ear to what he has said about,
Go ahead.
about the feeling in the street. It is normal that people will feel that the prices of commodities are skyrocketed from the beginning of this administration, because they don't understand the forces of demand and supply that also impact on these prices. But let me tell you, just wait a minute. Let me tell you, this is how it is coming from. The prices of demand and supply, the prices of commodities are meant to be so because of that decision of removal of fuel subsidy. Why does it have to be so? Because it has to impact on transportation, on the price of commodity, and it is referred as a necessary pain. Necessary pain because we are supposed to go to the next level. So it is some part of the pains that we have to suffer to lift ourselves to the next level. So it is important that that fuel subsidy is removed to enable government of the day and government that will succeed, government after, to have liquidity.
Let me come in here. Let me come in here. You see, a government that has its people at heart, right, will definitely make life comfortable for the people first before you start talking about other aspects of good governance.
And that is what the government is doing. And
If the people are hungry,
let me tell you,
if the people are hungry, for instance, in other countries around the world, basic commodities are still subsidized. Why? Because the people come first. So if things like petroleum, right, is not subsidized, and the money realized from removal of subsidy is not being seen to be channeled into basic infrastructure, healthcare, basic education, how do you expect the people to believe that this was done in good faith?
Let me be very honest to you.
That's the agitation of a lot of people right now.
When you talk about basic amenities, basic necessity of life being subsidized, petroleum is not part of basic amenities. You're talking about education, you're talking about healthcare, talking about day-to-day living that is pulling people from poverty. And it has to education. The government is very clear on how they want to deepen the importance of education. You are aware of the student loan. That money is never the billions of naira spent in that area was never going to be possible if not for the removal of fuel subsidy. That is where it impacts the very poor. That is why your neighbor who is a poor neighbor.
All right,
can
let me
go to
come back.
school
Let,
without
let,
you.
let's go back to the issue we're talking about at first. The coalition that is being formed. It appears that, you see, a lot of persons believe that the opposition is being weakened, and therefore a coalition of a mega party to form a third force, or rather to form a much stronger opposition is what is needed at this time. Mind you, between 2013 and 2015, that was when the merger that formed what we now have as APC began. So, is it not okay to have an opposition that will challenge the government in power?
Anywhere in the world, for democracy to strive, there has to be a potent opposition. But anywhere in the world, too, you will agree with me that it is not the responsibility of government in power to organize opposition. And what PDP has done, PDP, we had hoped was going to provide the enabling environment for a calculative, strong, intelligent opposition, has destroyed itself. It is not the problem of the APC, it is not the problem of the government in power to organize PDP. To that extent, they failed. Hence the need for a third force. Labour Party too has destroyed itself. I was an obedient. I coordinated obedient movement in Rivers State. And I spent my money because the slogan then was that we know they give a shishi. That was the slogan. But beyond that, I spent money from my own pocket. But what has Labour Party become today? A mockery of itself. What has APC become today? They've been a party that has reformed itself. Before 2023, APC was not attractive. They promised nothing. Labour Party was promising an utopian society, that is a Kamas manifesto they gave everywhere. But look at APC today. They have gone from place to place implement those things that Labour Party promised, and that has made it very viable. So
in other words, you believe that the APC is definitely adhering to the tenets of democracy all across the states, as it were, in our constitution right now?
For me, to the best of my knowledge, they are doing very well to an extent. I wouldn't say the entire country or the entire states they are occupying. When you talk about APC in states like Lagos, is doing very well. Lagos is better than it were some 3 years ago. You will agree with me. It's the fastest growing tech cities in the whole world. Not in Africa, in the whole world. That's credit to APC. And other places too, they are doing extremely well. That's not to say that other parties are not doing well, because you go to Abia State, come on, you know as much as I do that the governor there is doing extremely well. And what was government there? The government there, Labour Party or what? Before him? PDP. But look at what the governor is doing today. So it's not about party per se. It's about the manifesto you give, the way you approach it. And the APC is doing extremely well. And Labour Party is also doing well, but to an extent of only Abia State.
You only just joined APC not too long ago, and you believe that the party is doing extremely well in terms of...
I have not joined APC. I'm not a member of APC.
You said you were an obedient.
Let it be on record.
You said you were an obedient.
An obedient is not an APC member. I have not joined APC. I'm not a member of APC.
But you are here, singing the praises of the APC.
I represent the conscience of the people.
Anyway, it's all right.
I represent the way you feel behind the camera. I'm not a member of APC. Maybe I will be tomorrow. I don't hate APC.
Well, maybe, of course.
I don't hate PDP. I don't hate Labour Party.
Interesting. That brings me to this question now. If that is the case, if you believe that democracy is doing very well at this time under the watch of APC, in Rivers State, a sitting governor was removed, according to the decision of the president, all right, because of what he termed as, the peace of the state, going out of hand. And he said on March 18, I can't remember, he said that he won't no good leader will sit by and watch things spiral out of control. But we also have other states who have gross insecurity, plaguing the people at the time. And no state of emergency was declared there. What are your thoughts regarding what happened in Rivers State at this time? In a democracy, a retired military officer is superintending over affairs of the state. So what are your thoughts regarding that?
Well, I just want you to understand, when you talk about the position of the president, talking about no responsible leadership, we watch and see insecurity deteriorate to that level in a state. You know, and let's talk about the real essence of governance. You know, the survival of a government is the prime purpose of government. So if there is an insecurity in Borno State,
The survival of government is not the primary purpose
I want
of
you to
government. The
understand.
security of life and
I want you
property
to
is-
understand the way government think. On theory, you will say that the security of life and property is the primary purpose of governance.
No, not just in theory. That is the
But
primary
that's what
responsibility of
the
government.
way it is. But in the actual practice of governance, even international politics, government is more interested in what keeps it existent.
Especially
And
a very
what
selfish
keeps,
government.
what keeps its existence is natural resources,
All right.
availability of that. So an insecurity in Borno State is not equal to an insecurity in River State or in Delta State or in Akwa Ibom State. I haven't said that. As a Rivers person, my natural instinct is that nothing serious has happened in River State to declare a state of emergency. But I don't have access to security reports. I'm not a member of NSA. I don't work in that office. I'm not in DSS. I'm not in police. I'm not in the military. I don't know the briefing they have given Mr. President. But as a Rivers person, I still maintain that I am not quite okay that what has happened, the pressure in that period was good enough to declare state of emergency.
All right.
But then again, too, for some of us who love the government in power before then, the question is the state of emergency even to our own favor or to our own disadvantage? What if there was no state of emergency and the House of Assembly was allowed to do its function? But it must function. Because after the Supreme Court judgment, the House of Assembly has its power to function as a House of Assembly. What are the functions? Also, to checkmate the expenditure of the government in place. What if they have gone ahead to impeach the president, the governor, the deputy governor? Will my interest ever be protected? What if I tell you that the president's intervention, to an extent, may not be his intention, as at the time he declared state of emergency, had also helped the government in place? So it is not something that we have to dumb here. But I don't want to speak extensively about the Rivers issue. Reason being that there is a peace move. One, on the other part, the PDP is in court to challenge the declaration of state of emergency.
Absolutely.
On the other part, the governor that we love, the people love, across the device, is also making peace move. And the Minister of FCT, that is highly respected across the device too, has also described the governor that the people love as his son, that he's not fighting him. So I don't want to speak about that, so you don't put me on the spot, please.
You're not being put on the spot. I only asked you regarding democracy across the country, the states of Nigeria.
That's what I've
How
been
is
in.
it? Of course, that's very natural. It's not because there is a very vested interest, a very particular vested interest that, nothing like that, all right? So
You will
don't
never
see it
agree
as,
there is a vested interest.
don't see it as something
Until I
like
make a
putting
comment
you
that becomes
on the spot.
a news line. I know how you function.
Oh, well, I do not know why you see it that way, but this is normal discussion we're having.
But I must be very honest. You're asking the right questions.
Thank you very much. What's you? I'm coming to you now. You see, rather than agitating for the next general election, your party is in government. Why not focus on, wouldn't it rather be nice or beneficial to the country to focus on electoral reforms, which is very, very necessary and needed at the moment, rather than, agitating for the next general election to become the next candidate? Because just a few days ago, the president was even endorsed by governors of the APC and other leaders of your party. I'm sure you are aware. So what would you rather have as something to be concentrated on now, rather than,
Well, like you said, what happened during the declaration was an internal affair, whereby APC as a body, as a family, come together to appreciate their leader, the president of the Federal Republic, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and also declare their loyalty and also to let him know that as a party man, the party is happy with him. So I think that is not about general election. It's an internal thing that we do as a way of reassuring ourselves, assuring our leader that, sir, you are doing well, you are on the right track, you are keeping to your manifesto, you are keeping to the promises. We are with people, we mingle with people, and we can give you the feedback of what they are feeling. Fine. But coming to say about the reforms, this government is a government that actually believes in reforms. Removal of subsidy itself is a reform on its own. That is number one. Number two, this government just see through, just push through tax reform. And these are things that we change and redefine Nigeria economy.
Okay.
That will redefine the politics. I mean the polity in a way that prosperity that Mr. President promised Nigerian people will come to pass.
Leader and founder and forces of good governance, Dr. Kingsley Ogu, many thanks indeed for joining us on the program tonight. And of course, Alhaji Wasiu Abiola, an APC chieftain and of course, country director of Nigerians in diaspora for Ashewaju. Many thanks indeed, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us on the program tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
That's our show for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles, and of course, drop your comments there. And of course, you follow me, Enemaku Ojochegbe, on all social media handles. That's our show for today. Bye for now.